all financial institutions need to put in a basic set of controls to help prevent and detect fraud. It starts, first of all, with corporate risk assessment of understanding what your exposures are. I think it's critical to have a segregation of duties between roles and functions to reduce the risk of insider fraud in financial institutions. If we look at some of the European rogue trading events in the last 18 months, we had individuals that had access to systems where there really weren't any dual controls. There was very limited oversight. So, it's very crucial to take advantage of some of the business process management technologies that can instantiate workflows and instantiate controls so there's better governance and transparency, and so that you can segregate certain functions that then, once those functions are completed, before a commit or before funds are actually moved, another individual is required to review those. And in addition to that, obviously, periodic audit and review can help discover weaknesses or controls as well. Recently, there are a couple of significant advances in technology, one of which is behavioral analytics. And I see fraud, the fraud methodologies and disciplines are maturing such that decisions aren't just being made about an individual transaction, but they're taking into account, is that normal relative to what's normal for that account or that customer or all parties to an account. So going from kind of this transactional or pattern-based, simple, rules-based methodology, we see a lot of emphasis on behavioral analytics. That's one thing. I think as we look at mobile banking, mobile payments, kind of endpoint or behavioral analytics specific to mobile devices and web behavior as well, online banking behavior. So as an analytics company, it's no surprise. I think one of the biggest advances is really around behavioral analytics. There are a couple of methods that banks use to detect counterfeit or forged checks. Within the check itself, there are optical character recognition technologies that can allow them to look at the check and image the check and store that in their document management and case management systems for further review. There are pattern recognition capabilities for looking at out-of-sequence or duplicate sequence numbers. Now with remote deposit capture, we can also take into account the geographic risk of where that check may actually, if it's being scanned on a remote device, the geographic location, any type of risk elevation based on that geography. So those are some of the techniques that can be useful. If we are taking more of a behavioral analytics approach, then you can also compare the amounts, the number of transactions in a given period of time, and comparing that for what's normal for that account or for the customer. And that's a little more advanced technique. I do have an example of counterfeit checks, and it was actually a bank inside fraud, if you will. And we had an Asian bank where one of the bank associates had a gambling problem, and he was not only a habitual gambler, he lost a lot. And so what he would do, he would manipulate dormant bank accounts and actually request that checks be shipped. He would change the physical address for the accounts and then have new checks requested and ship those to a P.O. box or to an address of an accomplice. And over time, they were able to actually, they found out about this particular case only when he was arrested, for gambling debts, and he did a number of things that brought attention to himself. But when they looked back and did a look back in retrospect, they started looking at all of the account maintenance activities he had performed on a number of fairly dormant accounts, and it was clear that there was a pattern there and that he had been doing this for some time.